The key to a new world is often hidden inside the sounds of a language you do not yet speak. And for a very long time, my own personal world was extremely small, quiet, and surrounded by incredibly high walls that felt completely impossible to climb. My name is Eliana, and I grew up in a beautiful but isolated place where English was something distant and rare, like a magical dream you only see in big Hollywood movies on a weekend, or read on the back of imported shampoo bottles in the bathroom. To a regular, ordinary girl like me, this foreign tongue did not feel like a real, practical way of speaking with your family or friends, but rather it felt like a beautiful, fast, and highly musical secret code that I was never meant to understand or unlock in my lifetime. In my small hometown, absolutely everyone spoke our native language, from morning until night, living our simple lives, drinking hot traditional tea on the porch, and walking the same dusty streets, using only the familiar words we were born with. English remained a distant luxury, meant only for rich people who could travel across the ocean, or a specialized tool for university professors who spent their entire lives reading giant textbooks. So it certainly did not feel like something that belonged to a regular girl like me. But life has a strange, mysterious way of changing your path when you least expect it. And a single warm summer evening when I was just 19 years old changed my entire existence forever. When my father walked through the front door carrying an old, heavy, gray computer as a special gift from my uncle. It did not have any internet connection back then, but it came with a few shiny compact discs full of digital books, basic games, and educational programs. And the very moment that machine turned on with a loud, buzzing sound, a fire woke up inside my soul. Looking at the glowing screen under a small lamp while my entire family slept peacefully in their beds, I saw words like file, edit, view, and save. And though I had absolutely no idea what they meant, I felt an intense, burning desire to understand them. Sitting there in the dark with a dusty paper translation dictionary in my lap, flipping through the pages for hours just to understand how to open a simple yellow digital folder, I realized that if I wanted to explore the massive world outside my window, I needed to learn this language quickly. I knew with total certainty that I could not do it the traditional way, because my family could not afford expensive private language schools, and I did not have years to sit in a boring classroom learning long grammar rules from tired teachers. So I had to create a unique system that forced my brain to live, breathe, and think in English every single day. My very first rule was that if I could physically see an object with my eyes, I absolutely had to name it in English. So I went to the local shop and bought several packs of bright, colorful sticky notes and began labeling every single item in my house, from the mirror in the bathroom to the heavy refrigerator in the kitchen. Within 2 days, our house looked like a strange paper forest made of yellow, pink, and blue notes. And though my mother honestly thought I was losing my mind as she picked up a simple teacup labeled with a little piece of paper that said cup, it worked perfectly because my brain started to connect the real physical object directly to the English word, without any translation. Taking this immersion method even further, I made the brave decision to change the language settings on my mobile phone and my personal computer to English, which was a terrifying step that almost made me get completely lost in my own device settings several times. But it forced me to learn through pure survival. I carried a physical vocabulary notebook with me everywhere I went, walking through the local markets and down the crowded streets, but I made a strict, unbreakable rule never to write the translation in my native language on those pages. Instead, I drew small, simple pictures, like a green tree for the word tree, a small boat for the word ship, or a crying face to represent the word sad. And if a word was too difficult to draw, I would use simple English words I already knew to describe it. This method cut out the slow middleman of my native language and built a fast, direct bridge between my mind and the new language. But I quickly discovered that human language is not just a list of words on pieces of paper, because it has a real rhythm, a heartbeat, and a physical flow. My ears were incredibly lazy, and whenever I listened to native English speakers on the television, it sounded like one long, continuous, impossible word because they smashed their sentences together, making casual phrases sound terrifyingly fast and messy to my uneducated ears. To train my hearing, I chose a specific comedy television show where the characters spoke about normal, everyday things like work, friendship, and food. But instead of watching the whole show and getting totally overwhelmed, I took a single 5-minute scene and watched it every single day for a whole week. On the very first day of the week, I watched the short scene with English subtitles just to understand the basic story and see who was happy or angry. Then I used the second day to find and write down 5 new words from that dialogue. On the third day, I turned off the subtitles completely and tried to catch those specific 5 words using only my ears. And on the fourth day, I began to pause the video after every single sentence to repeat exactly what the actor said, out loud. By copying their unique accent, the exact way their voice went up and down when they were surprised or sad, and even trying to mimic their facial expressions, I was training the muscles in my tongue and face to speak correctly. By the time the 6th and 7th days arrived, I experienced a wonderful, magical change where I did not need the subtitles at all because the words sounded clear, slow, and distinct, like water flowing gently over smooth rocks. This intense, deep repetition taught me that it is much better to know 100 English words perfectly, deeply, and automatically than to know 1,000 words that you cannot actually catch or understand in a fast, real-life conversation. But even with all of this wonderful practice in my bedroom, I still faced a massive, terrifying wall of fear when it came to actually speaking to another human being. Whenever I opened my mouth to say a simple sentence to a real person, my throat would tighten up, my heart would beat incredibly fast against my chest, and my mind would go completely blank because I was terrified of making a small mistake or being laughed at by others. This deep fear paralyzed me completely one sunny afternoon in the park when an old tourist couple stopped right near my wooden bench, held up a large paper map, and asked me for directions to the Central Museum. I knew the answer perfectly well and had all the right words sitting right there in my head to tell them, to go straight for 2 blocks and then turn left. But the fear completely locked my jaw. I panicked, my face turned bright red, I shook my head quickly, said "No English" in a quiet voice, and walked away as fast as I could, with tears of anger and disappointment burning in my eyes. That painful moment made me realize that my fear was a self-made cage, and if I did not break it by learning to embrace my mistakes as signs of real progress, I would never truly speak English, no matter how many books I read or videos I watched. Since I did not have real people to talk to without feeling judged or embarrassed, I started talking directly to myself, out loud in my room while making breakfast, describing my plans for the day, or using alternative descriptions for words I did not know yet. I began to use voice recording apps on my mobile phone to tell short stories about my childhood, and even though I absolutely hated the sound of my heavy accent at first, listening back helped my ears catch and correct my own grammar mistakes over time. By the 4th month of this intense journey, my daily practice became a joyful, wonderful addiction rather than a difficult chore, as I moved from simple children's stories to thicker teenager novels and kept a detailed daily journal in English to share my dreams, secrets, and thoughts with the pages. The ultimate test of my hard work came exactly 6 months after I opened that old computer for the first time, when a young woman with a clear British accent approached me in the very same park, asking for directions to the local market because her phone internet had stopped working. This time, my heart did not race, and my throat did not close up at all as I smiled warmly at her, looked her in the eyes, and explained the path clearly, telling her to walk down the street, turn left at the big blue building, and follow the beautiful smell of the fresh spices. When she complimented my English and asked if I had lived abroad in another country, a wave of pure, absolute happiness washed over me as I proudly told her I had never left my small town and had learned everything right here by myself. Speaking with her for another 5 minutes about local food, culture, and her travel plans felt like a real, meaningful conversation between two human beings from completely different corners of the world, connected beautifully by a single shared language. Sitting back down on the park bench after she walked away with her camera, I looked up at the blue sky and realized that my world was no longer small because the high walls were completely gone, broken down by nothing but sticky notes, an old computer, a notebook, and an absolute refusal to give up on myself. If you are trying to learn English right now and you feel stuck, tired, lonely, or afraid of failure, you must understand that rapid learning takes a total shift in your daily habits and your internal mindset, rather than years of expensive schooling. You must actively build a complete English environment around yourself by changing your device settings, labeling the room you live in, and forcing your brain to stop translating in your head so that you connect words directly to real images and feelings. Practice narrow listening by focusing deeply on short, high-quality video clips for an entire week until you know every sound. And do not hesitate to speak out loud to yourself every single day to destroy the physical fear of opening your mouth. Most importantly of all, you must kill the annoying perfectionist inside your mind, because mistakes are simply the price you pay for moving forward, much like a small baby who must fall down 100 times before learning how to walk perfectly. Learning English did not just give me the useful ability to talk to foreign tourists or navigate a computer program, but it completely transformed my identity, gave me direct access to a global library of human knowledge, and allowed me to dream much bigger dreams for my future. My name is Eliana, and I am no longer the quiet girl trapped behind the dark walls of a single language, but a proud, confident citizen of a much larger world who found her way there one simple word at a time. As I look back on those months of intense study, I realize that the journey of learning a language is actually a journey of discovering who you really are when you cannot rely on the comfortable words you have. In the beginning, every sentence felt like a heavy stone I had to lift with my mind. And there were many days when I wanted to throw my notebooks away, close the computer, and accept that I would always stay inside the borders of my own native tongue. It is completely normal to feel tired, and it is completely normal to think that your brain is simply not made for languages. But the truth is that human brains are built to connect, to understand, and to survive in whatever environment we place them in. When I forced my brain into an English environment by covering my walls with sticky notes and listening to the same speech sounds over and over, my mind had no choice but to adapt and grow to match the world I was building around it. The real secret to learning English quickly is not having a special talent or a rare genetic gift for grammar, but it is the willingness to look foolish, to speak with a strange accent, and to keep going even when you sound like a child. Every single mistake I made, from saying the wrong verb tense to mispronouncing a simple word in front of a stranger, was actually a small step forward because it showed me exactly where I needed to improve. When I started writing in my journal every evening, the sentences were short, broken, and full of errors. But as the weeks passed, those sentences grew into paragraphs, and those paragraphs grew into beautiful pages of personal expression. I began to realize that I was no longer just translating my native thoughts into English words, but I was actually beginning to experience feelings and thoughts that belonged directly to the English language itself. There's a special kind of freedom that comes when you realize you can express your soul in a completely new way, using sounds and phrases that were completely foreign to you just a few months before. My vocabulary notebook became a living history of my personal growth, filled with sketches, exclamation marks, and rows of words that gradually changed from difficult technical terms into regular, everyday tools that I used without thinking. The heavy computer that my father brought home became a window to a universe of ideas, books, articles, and voices that had always existed just outside my reach, waiting for me to find the strength to open the door. Today, when I walk through the streets of my town, I still see the same houses, the same shops, and the same people drinking tea. But my relationship with the space around me has completely changed because I know that I am connected to something much vaster. I can read the news from countries thousands of miles away. I can listen to lectures by the world's greatest thinkers, and I can share the unique beauty of my own culture with people who have never visited my homeland. Language is the ultimate tool for empathy, because it allows us to step inside the mind of another person, to see the world through their eyes, and to realize that despite our different backgrounds, we all share the same basic human hopes and fears. If you are standing at the beginning of your own language journey, looking at a wall of difficult grammar and unfamiliar vocabulary, I want you to remember that the wall is not permanent, and that every single word you learn is a brick you are removing from that barrier. Do not let the fear of being imperfect keep you silent, because a language spoken with mistakes and passion is 1,000 times more beautiful than a perfect language that is never spoken at all. My name is Eliana, and this is the story of how I found my voice, opened a locked door, and stepped out into a massive, beautiful, and limitless world that is waiting for you to enter it too. To make this journey real for yourself, you must understand that consistency is far more powerful than intensity, meaning that studying for 15 minutes every single day without fail will change your brain much faster than studying for 5 hours only once a week. You must create little rituals that connect your daily life to the language, such as listening to an English song while you wash the dishes, or writing down 3 things you are grateful for in English before you go to sleep. When you surround yourself with the language in small, manageable ways, it stops feeling like a difficult subject from school and starts feeling like a natural part of your daily routine. Look for stories, topics, and hobbies that you already love in your native language, and try to explore them through English instead, whether that means reading about cooking, football, science, or art. When the content you are consuming is genuinely interesting to you, your brain forgets that it is supposed to be studying a foreign language and focuses entirely on the meaning, which allows you to absorb vocabulary naturally and effortlessly. Remember that fluency does not mean knowing every single word in the dictionary, because even native speakers do not know every word in their own language. But true fluency means being able to communicate your thoughts, ideas, and needs clearly and comfortably without stopping. It means having the confidence to look at someone, explain a concept using the simple words you have, and laugh gently at yourself when you make a funny mistake along the way. The community of English learners around the world is massive. containing millions of people who are facing the exact same struggles, the same fears, and the same moments of doubt that you are experiencing right now. You are never alone on this path, and every single step you take toward mastering this language is a step toward connecting with a global family of human beings who are all trying to understand each other better. Do not be discouraged by the slow days or the moments when your brain feels completely full, because language learning happens in waves, and often a period of difficulty is followed by a sudden, wonderful leap in your understanding. Looking back, I see that the 19-year-old girl sitting in the dark with her paper dictionary was creating a version of Eliana who would be strong, independent, and capable of speaking to the world with total confidence. The effort you put into learning English today is an investment in the future version of yourself, opening up professional opportunities, personal friendships, and intellectual adventures that you cannot even imagine right now. Let your curiosity be your guide. Let your mistakes be your teachers. And let your desire to connect with the wider human story be the fuel that keeps your fire burning through the dark nights of study. The world is incredibly large, beautiful, and filled with millions of voices that are waiting to speak with you, to listen to your story, and to welcome you into the global conversation. Start today by changing one setting on your phone, writing down one new word in a notebook, or speaking one simple sentence out loud to your own reflection in the mirror, because that is exactly how the high walls begin to fall. My name is Eliana, and I am telling you with absolute certainty that your own journey to a bigger world starts with the very next word you choose to learn. As the months turned into a full year, the habits I had built became an inseparable part of my identity, and I found myself naturally thinking in English, even when I was not actively trying to practice. I would look at a beautiful sunset from my window, and the word beautiful would appear in my mind before the corresponding word in my native language, which was a strange but incredibly exciting sensation that proved my brain had successfully rewired itself. I started helping other young people in my neighborhood who saw my progress and wanted to know the secret to learning so fast. And by teaching them the sticky note method and the 5-minute video exercise, I watched their confidence grow just like mine had. It became clear to me that language is not a possession to be kept to oneself, but a gift to be shared, a bridge to be built, and a tool to bring people closer together, regardless of where they were born. The small room where I once sat in complete silence, terrified of the world outside, had transformed into a launch pad that connected me to global communities, online libraries, and friendships that crossed oceans and borders. When my father passed away a few years later, he left me that old computer, which was completely obsolete by then, but I kept it as a precious reminder of the moment my life split into two halves, the half before English and the half after. That heavy gray machine was the physical catalyst for my freedom, showing me that sometimes the greatest transformations in our lives start with a simple, humble tool and a huge amount of determination. I often think about the tourist couple in the park whom I ran away from in tears, and I wish I could find them today to thank them, because their simple question was the painful spark that forced me to confront my fear and break my self-imposed silence. Without that moment of deep embarrassment, I might have remained comfortable with just reading and writing, and I would have never pushed myself to find the courage to speak out loud. If you are reading my words right now and feeling a sense of doubt about your own abilities, I want you to take a deep breath, place your hand over your heart, and realize that you already possess everything you need to succeed. The human mind is an incredible, flexible instrument that can learn new patterns, absorb new sounds, and adapt to new ways of thinking at any age, whether you are 19, 40, or 70 years old. Do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle, and do not feel bad if your progress seems slow compared to the stories you hear, because every person's brain moves at its own unique and beautiful pace. The only way to truly fail at learning a language is to stop trying entirely. So as long as you open your notebook, listen to a song, or say a single word today, you are winning the battle against silence. My name is Eliana, and I am standing on the other side of the wall, reaching my hand out to encourage you, to cheer for you, and to tell you that the view from the top of this mountain is more beautiful than you could ever dream. So let your journey begin in this very moment, without waiting for the perfect Monday, the perfect textbook, or the perfect classroom to appear in your life, because perfection is an illusion that only serves to keep you stuck in one place.